The arrival of Varka has definitely caused a lot of discussions within the player base, and there's a few important things that need to be addressed in this video. Look, I could easily go on about the same beaten to death topic how Varka's numbers are disappointing, and I might entertain you with this a bit later in the video because why not? But to be honest, I want to step away from theory crafting for a moment and just take a look at the current state of the game and how it all ties in with Varka's release. It's no secret, Genshin is now in the era of insane power creep. Frankly, power creep is unavoidable in gacha games. I've played so many of them, not just Hoyo games or WoWa, but like starting from 2018, I was first introduced to gacha mechanics from this little title, Lionheart Dark Moon, and power creep there was insane even a few months into its life cycle. But the way how Genshin has recently been handling it is kind of funny. Like even with Lauma's release starting at 6.0, she already became the best teammate for Denjo reactions, even if Nahida was good with her as well. However, if we take a walk down the memory lane, you could easily notice small hints of what Genshin devs were planning all the way back to Fontaine Update. Remember that useless Numa and Usia mechanic each Fontaine character had, including Hydro Traveler? Yeah, nobody cared about this mechanic. Maybe sometimes it was useful in few encounters, like against Icewind Sweet Boss in Abyss, and even then, it wasn't that big of a deal if you brought a non-Fontaine team comp against it. But fast forward to Natlan, and now there's some enemies like the infamous Tenebrious Papilla, where it takes much longer to break its ward state if you don't use Night Soul aligned attacks. This is also where we met Mawika, Shilonen, Escoffier, and Varesa, and saw how much they influenced the meta with their numbers. Well, Shilonen more of a catch-all support, but Mawika pushed the envelope in terms of max DPS. And now in Notcry, it's just straight up ridiculous. We have multiple enemies like Wilderness Hunters, who basically have double HP bars if you don't use abilities enhanced by Moon Sign, or these annoying birds whom I hate with all my heart. And these stupid little things are so much easier to deal with if you bring some lunar damage. The flavor of the update is just too damn strong. You either get with it or have to sweat through it if you didn't pull the latest units. And then comes Varka, a Giga Chad who takes no fall damage from his skill. So tall, he can't walk through certain entrances. A culinary cook, he can prepare fish in 4 ways. On top of that, you can play him as a Hydro Claymore DPS. Yes, I know exists, but we all know that's not her purpose. Even better, dude gets his own custom weapon skin from a cool world quest. Like, I'm not gonna lie, to me it's been a joy using him in various teams, and his story quest was amazing. But just like his skill, Varka is at the wrong time and place in the meta, and he blasts off and lands on his back. And interestingly enough, it's not just his low multipliers. There's an even more weird problem that most Varka players are probably noticing by now. So let me explain what this is all about after a quick message. This video is brought to you by Stella Sora, a top-down light action adventure RPG with an episodic story that keeps things fresh. You're jumping into fast, randomized adventures, pulling off slick combat tricks, and exploring the fantasy world of Noah, entirely at your own pace. No rush, just vibes, and explosions. And yes, it's available right now on iOS, Android, and PC, so there's really no excuse. And right now, they're running a brand new event called Winter Requiem and the Trigger of Dawn. Play the event, and you can snag a max 5-star disc for free, which is significantly better than the free items I usually get in gachas. There's also a new limited 5-star character, WRAITH. She may look cool and composed, but she's actually a hardcore weapons specialist. In battle, WRAITH delivers both melee and ranged damage, making her an incredibly flexible pick no matter how you like to play. On top of that, Jiri just got a gorgeous new winter outfit. White attire, exposed shoulder, snowy cafe vibes. Very main character energy. Also, this version adds multiple strategy-focused modes like Arc of Abundance and Fate-bound Stellar Deck, so there's always something new to dive into. So yeah, make sure to click my link in the description, download Stella Sora, and use my exclusive code WRAITH to grab in-game rewards and kickstart your adventure. Thank you again, Stella Sora, for supporting my channel. Okay, so we all know by now Varka's best team is made up of Durin, Venti, and Benito. Well, technically the best, there's Binefa looming around the corner, and I'll get into that, but for now, let's entertain the idea of this team synergy. Durin essentially provides resistance shred, plus he can unleash a bunch of personal damage. He is fine, but with VV shred already active from Venti, it's kinda not as impactful. However, when we look at the Drunken Bard, this guy creates a problem in the rotation where you either have to choose to use him before Benny, which means his own burst damage will be lower, plus VV set uptime will also be shorter. However, if you use him after Benny, then Benny's burst uptime will be shorter for Varka, since Venti still takes a while on field before you swap out. It's an annoying catch-22 situation. On top of that, since Durin does not snapshot his burst damage, he also won't benefit from Benny's burst. Point is, while the team's synergy is pretty good. It's just not working super well for this Varka team. And if Varka had big multipliers, this wouldn't be a problem, but since he is now cursed with the subpar numbers, he kind of has to deal with this issue. And it's funny because I've seen this floating around, but if Varka was released back in Fontaine or even Natlan, he'd be considered quite the meta character. However, because of previously mentioned Notcry bullcrap mechanics and the insane power scaling each new unit brought so far, the situation is completely different here. Like, for example, C0R1 Varka with Durin and Venti also using signatures ends up performing about as well as C0 Flins, who is equipped here with Ballad of the Fjords and full 4-star team. Obviously, this is anecdotal evidence. Please do not take this example to heart. I've seen people online pushing with better builds up to 110k or even more DPS with Varka's Pyro team. And to be fair, I also have C1 Flins, but I can ignore his C1 if I just slow down on his mini bursts and only use 2 of them and try to emulate him at C0. Oh, and yeah, I know Sucrose and Fischl are all at C6. However, the current situation becomes much more clear when Flins is in a team with Inafa and Columbina, and he's also using his signature. Now he can easily output double the DPS that Varka can do. Again, anecdotal evidence, but a lot of people will come to this same conclusion if you test them both against the Miliastra dummy. It's just very clear how disgusting the damage becomes with top tier Notcry supports, and the synergy is through the roof. In fact, Binefa Core is so broken, even using Varka with 2 of these lovely ladies leads to almost similar DPS, if not better, in terms of consistency when compared to his best Pyro team. On the flip side, because of the timing issues I've mentioned previously, at least if you use Varka with 4 stars such as C6 Chevy, Sucrose, and Benny, the drop-off in damage compared to his premium team is not as dramatic as one would expect. But this leads us to the critical question: is the big man still waiting for his salvation? I know a lot of people are speculating Nicole might be the answer to the buff dude's dysfunctional DPS problems, and maybe he will get better with broken supports, but it's all just a numbers game. And especially considering latest regions have been favoring characters with specific mechanics, like Night Soul aligned damage and lunar reactions, Varka doesn't have any of that. I mean, look, chasing the meta in this game right now is especially dire if you catch my drift. I've actually been having a blast with Varka in open world. His jumping is fun, he doesn't rely on his burst, just tap E and swing those glorious claymores at world mobs. Unless it's those damn chickens, otherwise all is well. In fact, because I was so unprepared this time around when it comes to pre-farming, my Varka literally only has skill maxed out, and I'm not using his burst at all. I don't have to, it's basically a DPS loss in endgame, and against world mobs, I can be a little patient. I mean, this doesn't mean you shouldn't level burst too, but that's how hilarious this character is. On the bright side, he is cheaper to build. Also, and I didn't talk about this yet, but am I the only one who expected more from his Hexerite buff? The cooldown reduction is fine, but overall, it would have been cooler if he gained new abilities or buffs when playing together with Mondstadt units. Overall, Varka's DPS is fine, but not amazing, and definitely not up to par when compared to latest Notcry units. And while it's subjective, he has a really cool playstyle, and the fact he can be used in any of the patch teams is great, even if in reality the best one right now is Spyro, although next upcoming Stygian boss should be clearable with Cryo Varka teams, provided you have Escoffier. Still, this brings us to the dilemma. Power creep is inevitable, and often it's viewed upon negatively. Like, I don't see anybody cheering when they have a beloved unit and a similar unit comes out but does everything better. And ironically, a lot of people were super excited for Varka, including myself. Some have waited 5 years to witness his glorious chin. And yet, because everything that has to do with Notcry is getting out of hand, somehow this guy ended up with a bad poker hand. I don't know, stupid remark, but I hope you get my point. Hopefully, as time goes on, Varka can gain some upgrades from other new units. Obviously, it's not an ideal situation, but it is what it is. Anyway, I don't want to turn this video into a coping session. I've said my piece. So yeah, let me know if any of you pulled for Varka, if you enjoy using him, and what do you think about this whole situation. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and press the like button on this video. Thanks, and see you next time.